Hello everybody, welcome today. We are here today to do shock and shock mount replacement for the rear shocks on my 2009 Volvo S60 here. We've already done the shock over on this side, on the passenger side rear, and have learned a couple of things in the process, so thought we would share with you guys and show you some things to look out for. Shocks on these typically are supposed to be a pretty easy replacement. But again, like I said, we learned a couple of things to look out for on these older cars. This one has 181,000 miles on it, and the shock mounts themselves have never been replaced. And I think when you replace the shocks on these, you should probably replace the shock mounts as well. They're really cheap, and if you replace them regularly, it's going to prevent some of the issues that we run into. First thing you want to do is remove the stuff from the back of the trunk, though, because you're going to have to get underneath some of the padding in there to get to the shock mount. Okay, rear of the trunk has been prepared. I've got the bottom mat laid out. That part just folds forward, and then you can turn it sideways and pull it out of the trunk. Those two pieces on the left-hand side are sitting over here. These are back in. They're very easy to remove. This section right here, on both sides, you just turn this little knob. And the whole thing just lays forward, and you just pull it out. The other piece, back behind here, where I just hit it, there's going to be a clip that holds it in. That's just a pinch clip. I'll show you what one of those look like right here. This is what it looks like. See, it just kind of pops in and holds itself in place. So all you really have to do is just be careful and pull forward on this, and the whole thing will pop out. Just make sure you don't drop it and lose it, because there's areas off to the side, little spots that it can drop down into. You just want to do that. So this one has one up here that it will have. There will be a little spot down here where you've got one of these little nuts that pops down here. You got to remove that, and you can see I've got my other one still in. And on the other side, see that hole right there? There's one of those clips that'll hold the carpet in on the top up there. Otherwise, it just kind of sits right down on. There's a little slot on the carpet to hold it into place down on the bottom. You just lift it right up and pull it out. Then, to get to that one right there, first thing you got to do is pull your seat release and then fold your seats flat so you can get up in there. So other than that, next thing is to get the rear of the car, the side that you're going to be working on, up on jacks and jack stands. And then reserve a jack. If you don't have two jacks, then you want to put a jack stand like under the jack point, which is over here somewhere, because when you lift this up and remove the shock, unless you're on a high lift jack or something, the shock drops out of the bottom side of the lower control arm, and you don't have enough room for it to clear. It'll hit the floor and you can't twist it out. So if you put a jack up under that control arm and lift up against the spring a little bit, just gives you a couple of extra inches to wiggle it out and put the new one back in. So next thing for us is to get that up on the jacks and jack stands, and I get the tire off. Okay, car is up in the air. This is what we're going to be putting on. I've chosen the Gabriel Ultra. And I know you guys can debate shocks all you want, saying I should have used KYB or Monroe or any number of good brands out there. The Gabriel Ultras are not the bottom end of the Gabriel family. They're a little bit further up. I haven't had any bad luck with these things when I've used them, and I don't know anybody personally that has. So, and for the price, really, I can't argue with them, so I'm going to go ahead and use them. If I end up having them not be as good as I think they are, that's fine. I can always replace them. They're not expensive, so I haven't wasted really much money, just a little bit of time. And this is the shock mount that I'll be using. It's a Melee component. And they make OEM components. They may actually make the OEM component for Volvo. I don't remember who does that. One of the problems you're going to run into, though, the shock mount has these three bolts on the top that will screw into these spots. But if you look, this part here is rubber, and this one has, I can feel inside, it feels like a steel insert inside the rubber. And this, I think, just these where the threads are, that part just kind of pushes into, it's not welded or molded into this bottom metal piece. I think it's just a press fit. So sometimes when you're pulling out these factory nuts or bolts, that on the bottom end where it's exposed underneath the car, it gets rusty. Plus, Volvo has a tendency to use some serious red thread locker on stuff. When you turn that to try to get it out, it'll twist this completely out of here. And there is no easy way to get anything underneath where that spring goes up inside, where this is sitting, to remove those. So it gets to be a pain. The one we did yesterday ended up going from a 20-minute job to an hour-and-a-half job. And I had to end up getting a pair of vice grips up in here to grab onto the bottom side of these to keep them from turning while my daughter was up top removing the bolts. And it took several tries. The rubber would get attached to this, so we had to use, wear the rubber away and all that. Bottom line is, when I remove the shock today, I'm going to spray some WD-40 or something up in there to try to penetrate those threads, and I'm going to go a little bit slower as I back this nut out. If it feels like it's has a lot of resistance, I'll turn it back down a little bit to try to clear the threads, and then go back at it again. I'm going to try to prevent that from happening, because that turned this into a real pain. But that does kind of point toward these probably needed to be replaced, because if they twisted out, they were probably weak to begin with. And if this wasn't staying in there and a corner of that was loose or something, that shock mount will flex and cause your shock to wear. This part here that covers your actual working portion of the tube, where your piston slides down in, it'll cause this to rub up against and bang up against the body of this and make a lot of noise. So that's what I'm dealing with right now on the shocks that I have. So let's get to it. Alright, so this is up in the air, tires removed. The shock is right there inside the spring. And if I look over here, I see the one bolt that holds the bottom part of that shock in. Let me take it off the tripod here. And you can see the shock where it goes through that lower control arm there. The other side of that, the nut is welded into place, so all you got to do is remove this one on this side. It's 15 millimeters, and it's a long bolt, like 4 inches long, so it'll come out. And I have a second jack here pushing up on this just a little bit, just an inch, take a little bit of the weight off the spring, so it's not pushing down on that bolt, so it should come out easier, because the shock's going to try to push itself down that way, and put stress on that bolt, so you got to kind of wiggle it out. Let's get that removed. Okay, hopefully you guys can see this. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so there, I might need an extension on this. Maybe not. Actually, that's going to loosen up really easily there. And I've just got to work this until it's out of the back side of this, and I can feel it. Got a long way to go there. So I'm going to get that done and pull that out, and I will come back to you guys. Alrighty, this big old bolt is loose. So now we can go up to the top and take out the shock, the top of the shock mount, or the shock itself. Okay, see if I can get enough of a view over here for you guys to see this. On the shock, if you twist this nut, this is going to turn also,
so you have to hold up here to keep it from turning. So this is, depending on the shock that's in there, that's going to vary. It could be Torx, it could be a hex like this is, or whatever. And you'll have it on the tightening position to hold back on the top, because you're fighting against the loosening action on this side. And this is a 19 millimeter that's in there currently. So once you break it loose, it's easy. You can just use this and it's a piece of cake. Once this nut is all the way off, that shock will just drop out the bottom, and then you'll have to raise up on that lower control arm to get it out. So let me get this out and I'll show you guys. Alright, the top of the shock is loose, so I'm just going to lift up on this. I've got this right up under the lowest part of that. Jack this up. I don't want to jack the weight of the car up on this. I just want to move this up enough to get the shock out. And you may have to whack it a couple of times to work it loose, but you can see it basically just drops out. And you can see on this shock where this, you can see the wear marks on this and on this where it was hitting up against each other, because this was flexing in there. Now, up inside here, where this dropped out, you can get your hand up in there and spray the area. You can get your hand up in there and spray the area with some WD-40. And that's what I'm going to do right now, and then take a break and let some of that WD-40 work to penetrate the nuts on the back side, or where the bolts stick out the back side of that mount, that shock mount. Alrighty, let's see if I can get you guys here. You see this? There you go. Let's see if we can get this off. Now this one over here usually comes off pretty easily, so we'll start there. And it feels like it's turning easily. That's what I want. I don't want a lot of resistance. So I'm going to leave that to hold it in place. I'm going to try this one. Okay, that's turning fairly easy. And if it'll continue to do that, we'll be alright. It's starting to tighten up. So I'm going to go slow, because I don't want to rip that thing out. And I think this time on this side, spraying that WD-40 might have made a big difference. This feels like it might be coming out much, much easier. Not like the other side that completely locked up. I mean, it was bad. Oh yeah. That's how it's supposed to do right there. Okay, let's try this side and hope for the best. This one's the hardest to get to, I think, so. Okay, it started easy. So far, so good. Getting a little tighter, so I'm going to go slow. But it's still coming easy. It's not pulling too hard against that. That's feeling really good. I think that WD-40 was the ticket. I think it also helps dissolve that thread locker. Yes, those were my two trouble points on the other side. So we are past that. Now, got to get this last one out, and it is super easy. Oh, got to get that washer out. I'm going to need that. And that's all she wrote. That's how it should have come out on the last one. That's nice. So now I got to put that one back in and start my bolts. And you got to put that in from the bottom. This tab right here, by the way, see how it's got that little piece there? Goes right into this. That's nice. So we'll get that started. Hang on, I might need an extra pair of hands. Okay, so threading that back in was a bit of a two-person job there, one from below and one from above. So I'm gonna hold up on this while you get that started there.
I got it.
I got it. You don't have to.
You're blocking the screw.
Oh.
Okay.
Is it centered? May need to, yeah, wiggle that. You want to hold while I try doing that? Here, you hold it. Oh, have you got it?
I think so.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it finger tight there, so that should hold itself now. And that's 10 millimeter, by the way. 10 millimeter to take them in and out. Give me your wrench right there. So now, we just got to tighten these back down and thread the shock up through and start that. So I'm going to turn you guys off to finish this up. Alright, I am down below. Get my screwdriver out of the way. And I've got this jacked up, so I've got extra room under it. All I've got to do is wiggle this up in, and I may have to compress the shock a bit, which I'm doing off camera. Grab the piston, and there you go. If you grab the piston in this, it'll hold it just long enough for you to get it back up in there. Where's my bolt? I'm gonna push this back up through to Cassie so she can start on that side to hold it. And then I can lower this arm back down into place. Oh, that's right. Now, if you notice, my jack is up or off. And I still have room. If I need to, I can get my jack under here to compress that shock and hold it up in there. And align that bolt hole so I can put my bolt back in and start tightening that down. So I've got this side going here. So Cassie's doing up top. Okay, so she's using the top. So you've got it angled. Actually, sometimes this one's best when you lean over from the back like this with your butt sticking up in the air.
Yeah, it's a better angle from back there.
Yeah.
I can't get a good grip on it from back here.
Yeah, I know.
But
You got to lay down sideways or something.
Yeah, but I can't hold the wrench from back there.
Okay. You want to hold this? Actually, if you want to hold this and give me that wrench, I'll pull from this side where I can get more leverage. Okay, that is nice and tight. Now I just got to finish up the bottom end, put my side pieces and everything in, get her on the ground and give her a test.